Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the BigSlice Games cast. I am your host, Corey Stroby, and with me I have Jessica.
Hello.
Let's get into this week's topics. So this first one, Rockstar Games launches its own storefront. This is by Rebecca Valentine over at gamesindustry.biz from the 17th. It says, Rockstar Games has joined the growing pool of publishers launching their own PC storefronts with the release of the Rockstar Games launcher today. The Rockstar Games launcher is free to download for Windows PC and currently has 7 Rockstar titles for sale alongside relevant DLC packs. The offerings include GTA 3 and 5, LA Noire, Max Payne 3, and Bully. The launcher supports cloud saves as well as games available on the storefront that have been purchased outside the launcher, either physically or digitally. Though all games are being offered at full price, Rockstar is offering Grand Theft Auto San Andreas for free for a limited time to those who download the launcher. Rockstar is in good company with publishers such as EA, Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft, Bethesda, and Epic Games, who have also released their own launchers to sell their games directly to customers. Some, such as Activision Blizzard, have moved the PC versions of their games off Steam entirely in favor of their own launchers, and Ubisoft recently switched to the Epic Games Store alongside its Uplay store in an effort to, quote, increase player exposure to its own storefront, according to CEO Yves Guillemot. And then this article also got an update shortly after it came out saying Rockstar declined to comment when asked whether or not this would affect the availability of its titles on other PC storefronts. So ever since the Epic Games launcher went out, it sounds like more and more bigger developer. I mean, EA and Activision and Ubisoft already had theirs.
Right.
But with Rockstar joining the front, that's giving and removing games from Steam is not looking real good for Steam. But I think this is going to be good in the long run because it's going to give Steam a little bit of competition that otherwise they wouldn't have had.
How so?
Well, because Steam was Steam, for the longest time, Steam was basically a monopoly when it came to online storefronts, especially in the PC area.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever a game came out, the go-to platform was Steam. Well, they kind of took advantage of that, as we talked about in the past about when we talked about the difference between the Epic Game Store and Steam. Steam takes a really big chunk of the sales.
Of the development money. I remember that.
Yeah, of the game sales.
Yeah.
So for the longest time they took a big chunk of that, and now with all these other storefronts coming out, we talked about a few weeks ago how Steam had launched a new pricing model. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I have to look it up really quick, but normally here it is. Where did it go? Oh, so this was from an article by The Verge, from Alex Castro at The Verge. It says normally Valve takes around 30% of all game sales on Steam, with some exceptions for games from smaller developers in its Steam Direct program. That will remain the case for the first $10 million in sales a game maker or publisher earns. For all sales between 10 million and 50 million, the split goes to 25%. And for every sale after the initial 50, Steam will take just a 20% cut. Where Epic takes 12 flat out.
Right.
They take 12%, which is almost half of the lowest amount that Steam will take in the long run. And if
right, because we ended up discussing how hard it would be just to get 10 million sales,
especially for smaller companies,
mm-hmm.
That don't have this huge track record or a huge marketing budget. With developers like Rockstar and Bethesda and EA putting their games on their own storefronts, they get 100% of the money because it's their own storefront.
Right.
And the developers under those publishers, that's gonna fall into how much money the game makes and whether the publisher decides they're worth keeping around. But either way, that's how it's going to be with any publisher, no matter what the storefront is. But even so, if they're selling the game on their own storefront, that publisher and that company is going to see 100% of the profits because they don't have to pay any third parties. As far as the storefront goes, other than keeping the storefront up, which again doesn't cost nearly as much as paying a third-party storefront.
Right.
They're essentially just paying to keep the servers up. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about it?
I mean, I think it's smart of Rockstar to do this because, like you said, they get 100% now.
Yeah.
So it's smart of them to do it, and I feel like same with like streaming device or streaming in general. I feel like a lot of companies are just starting to realize that they can make more money if they make their own stuff. So like Rockstar doing this is like similar to NBC taking stuff off of Netflix and making their own streaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of companies, no matter what necessarily they're doing, I think they're realizing they're going to make more money if they make their own platform.
Yeah. Right. And I think you brought up the point too, excuse me, a couple of weeks ago that the one downfall from this is like as much as Steam takes as much money as Steam takes, they still have quite the audience. So when you put your game on Steam, your game is going to be put out on this crazy large audience or this really wide audience that Steam already has. So when you put your game on there, your game gets exposed to that many people.
The exposure, yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing with this though is like when I was talking about exposure with Steam versus Epic Games, like there's a lot of games on Steam that people may not have heard of, or developers, you know, just like the studios that they haven't heard of. So it's
Right.
like it's a nice place to like just kind of like look over the library. Versus, I mean, Rockstar is a very well known studio, and people know Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
So like, if people want to play Grand Theft Auto, I don't think they're gonna give a crap if they have to go to Rockstar's own platform versus Steam. Like it's the same either way.
Yeah, it's still going to be it's still Rockstar's game. It's still GTA. You just have to download that extra launcher, and it doesn't cost you any extra money.
Right.
And even on top of that, I still see, like when you go into the comment section of pretty much any article that starts talking about, like, oh, this game's going to be on Epic Game Store, or this game's no longer going to be on Steam. Rockstar's going to do its own thing. There's still tons of people who are like, yep, boycott the game. And it's like, why? Like,
go ahead and boycott the game. I'm sure they'll be fine without you.
Yeah. Yep. It's real productive to boycott Grand Theft Auto 5, the highest grossing piece of entertainment media in history.
It's the same people that, you know, throw a fit inside of a store and go, I'm never shopping here again. Okay.
Okay. I'll see you. I'll see you in 2 days. See ya. Yeah, it's funny to me because I haven't actually gone in to like actually ask, because I really do not want to go down that rabbit hole, because it's going to be like arguing with a brick wall. That it'd feel like talking to a brick wall, because anytime you try to argue with someone that's just like, oh, I'm going to boycott the game because it's not on this specific store. Like, okay, but why? They probably don't even have a real argument. They're just going to be like, well, because you know, because it's Steam. Like, yeah, Steam's taking a lot of that developed money just because it's Steam. They want to make more of that money.
Right.
Well, they're already taking $60, yes, but they're only seeing about 70% of it. Whereas on that store, they're going to see 88% of it. Or if they put it on their own store, they're going to see 100% of it.
Right.
And then
like,
it starts devolving into the whole argument that games already make they already take $60 per the game. Well, that's a whole other discussion that we can have, but $60 isn't enough to pay for development costs. That's why they have to rely on DLC to keep people employed, or they have to do the microtransactions and stuff like that in order to keep the game profitable, in order to even make it worth continuing to work on before the developer decides we're going to abandon this project and start something new because this isn't making enough money anymore.
Right. And the question that I have is, when they're in store, they get 100 out of that, right?
What do you mean? Like at GameStop?
Yeah, like GameStop, Target, Best Buy, as long as it's in a brick and mortar.
I don't
know how that works.
Because when they ship, I don't know if they're selling that to the store, and then the store makes 100% after that. I'm not sure how that works, because they still have to pay for distribution, and when they sell a bunch of copies to GameStop or Best Buy or wherever you can buy games, Target, Meijer, whatever.
All right.
They are considered distributors in that sense, so they still have to pay distributor costs. I don't know how much that is, though. That's a really good question, though. I haven't really thought about that.
Yeah, because if they sold it to the store, I don't know, you would think that it'd be 100, because then at that point the store makes would profit off of whatever they charge. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, this is definitely a question for someone who studies business. How does that work? How much money does GameStop get, and how much does that distribution cost?
Yeah. Business is hard.
Yeah, because I know when people buy when you buy it digitally, when you buy a game digitally, the developer sees more of that money because they don't have to pay, more expensive distribution costs for making physical copies, selling them to stores, shipping them to stores. However that works, I don't know the actual numbers, but they still have to pay the distribution costs, and manufacturing and everything. Whereas when it's on digital, they essentially have to pay that storefront a certain amount of money to have the game on there. Maybe PlayStation gets a small percentage, maybe Xbox gets a small percentage, or Sony and Microsoft, respectively, get a small percentage of that cost. But it's still far cheaper. It's still far cheaper than distributing it physically to a storefront.
Right.
And then if they do it on, like in the topic with Rockstar Games doing their own storefront, that still makes 100% of the profits. If it's on their own storefront, they get 100% of the profits. And I think that's what all of this boils down to, is if you want to get the game, just get it on their launcher. It's the same deal with the Epic Games Store. It's the reason they're doing this is so that they can see more of the profit from their own game. Everyone complains about how games are expensive and that they have to pay for DLC and there's microtransactions that you don't have to buy, by the way. Everyone complains about that. Well, when you look at it, games have been $60 for how long? For years.
Quite a while. Yeah.
So the
Like
price
the
of
top games at least.
yeah. AAA games are the average cost is still $60, like it's been for years. I know N64 cartridges would once in a while be like $80 to $90. So the cost has actually gone down.
They were.
Overall, yeah. Average cost.
Jeez, thanks, Mom and Dad. I didn't know that.
Well, see, but back then, well, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But I mean, the cartridges were expensive because cartridges costed more money than CDs or Blu-ray discs. So costs went down.
Well, that was also before those came out. So
yeah. Oh, right. Duh. Of course. Whoops. Average cost of N64 games. So the average cost of so NES games costed around $29 to around $30 to $40 or $30 to $50. Adjusted for inflation, that was $59.79 to $99.65.
yeah, I was gonna say that was pretty expensive for that time.
And that's adjusted for inflation as of December 2010. So add on another almost 10 years of inflation to that. An N64 cartridge was about $50. So $69.60 is adjusted for inflation. I was thinking for adjusted to inflation. My bad. But whoops, that's not what I wanted. PS2 was about $50. Adjusted to inflation, that's about $63.41. So the cost of games has actually been going down when adjusted for inflation, but development costs have been going up. So
right, because of technology and where it's gone.
Right. So excuse developers for wanting to make money. Like I could talk about this for hours, but the gist is the cost of development is continuing to rise because games are getting more and more detailed. So they have to hire on more and more talent, and that talent is usually much higher skilled, demanding a higher pay.
Mm-hmm.
When you've worked as an animator for 10 years and you're put onto a big AAA project as an art lead, you're making far more than what someone might expect. 10 years in the industry, you might be making, well, as an artist, I'm not sure what the price is, but I know programmers typically make a 6-figure salary. Programming is hard.
Nice.
Yeah, programming is hard. But they're basically, and that's for for main engineers. They're the ones kind of programming tools and infrastructure and stuff for the game's stability versus gameplay programming. But gameplay programmers are even making upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 in a salary if they're hired on like as an official member of the team rather than a contractor. Contractor will make a little bit less, but
right.
But either way, so the reason that a lot of these companies are making their own storefront isn't to be mean or to just be like, oh, well, we're not going to do the Steam because we think Steam is terrible. Well, it's not that Steam is terrible. It's that they're taking too much of the cut. And developers who can afford to do so are going to make their own store so that they can see 100% of their profits in a time when games cost more and more to make and don't make enough in typical sales. So I don't know. That's an issue that constantly bugs me. Is there's a lot of gamers out there that don't understand why this is happening, and it's because Steam takes a lot of the cut, and games don't make as much as you would think. They make a lot of money, but you have to understand that the cost to make them is millions.
Right, yeah, it's not just the game. Like there's the people you have to pay.
Yep.
And the manufacturing and this and that and blah, 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 and people don't think about that.
Manufacturing, the cost to keep the servers up, the cost to
Right.
pay people to keep the servers running and to fix them, and most of those people have salaries and benefits and paid vacations and
if they're that lucky.
Right. If it's a bigger like Rockstar, you'll get, if you're on Rockstar's team, they're a big enough developer where if you're employed by them, you get benefits, you get a salary, you get healthcare and whatnot. But and that's multiple people, that's getting paid to make this game. Plus, it costs manufacturing. Plus, it like you said, it costs marketing and all of that stuff, distribution. You can go on and on, but with them making their own storefront and putting the game there, that's far less that they have to pay to somebody else just to see the game get sold. And I wouldn't be surprised if more and more companies did this. And
right.
Like I said, it's not going to cost you anything more. You might have to download an extra storefront. Maybe they'll make it so that you can just buy it and download it straight off of their website so that you don't have to download a launcher. And you can run it through a third-party launcher, and that doesn't cost them any money for you to run it through there. The only difference is they might not be able to see the stats for it, and that's going to make doing research on the game a little bit harder. But I'm sure they'd be able to figure out how to do that, even if there was a third-party launcher, even though you're buying it off of their storefront. And for those that are confused by that, the launcher is basically what you're running the game through. So like Steam is a launcher, whereas the storefront could be something that you buy the game off of. So like you'd buy the game off of the storefront and then the launcher would run it. But knowing Rockstar, it's going to be, they'll have their own storefront plus the launcher, but either way.
All right.
Yeah, that's really all I have to say on that. Do you have anything else to add?
For time's sake, no.
Okay. Do you have to be anywhere after this, or?
No, I can bitch about how consumers now suck for hours, so.
Yeah. And it basically.
But other than that, no.
Yeah. One last thing to say on that is basically, before you start getting heated about something like that, think about all of the logistics that go. Ouch! Think of all the logistics that go into that. I bumped the mic. Think about all the logistics that go into that. Think about the fact that Steam takes a lot of money. If they put their own storefront there and sell the game through there, they see a lot more of the profits at no extra cost to the consumers other than a few minutes to download that launcher. So yeah, think about that before you start, complaining about it. Okay. Next topic. Twix. What?
Yummy.
Twitch sexual content crackdown causes confusion. This is by James Batchelor over at gamesindustry.biz from the 18th of September. It says, Twitch has been clamping down on what it deems to be, quote, sexual content over the past week, but the inconsistencies are confusing streamers. Kotaku has an in-depth roundup, but some of the more notable examples include Twitch streamers. I apologize, I'm going to butcher this. Kuko. It's Quqco, who was suspended for cosplaying as Street Fighter's Chun-Li, and Faria, who was given a warning and a 90-day probationary period for wearing a sports bra and baggy shorts. It says, continuing, Kuko was warned her outfit was sexually suggestive, despite not being overly revealing. The tops of her thighs were visible, but the majority of her body was covered. Meanwhile, Faria was told her warning was prompted by her wearing, quote, underwear or lingerie. Elsewhere, an art streamer, Sarue, was given a warning and suspended for 3 days after, quote, drawing nudes. She had been drawing hentai characters that were scantily clad but not fully naked, and it's unclear whether the warning was over the character's attire or poses. A male streamer under the handle Shift was given a warning for using an emote based on a meme of SpongeBob SquarePants ripping his pants. This was deemed too sexual, and the emote was disallowed. Finally, IRL streamer Bridget DeVoe was suspended for 3 days after, quote, sharing or engaging in sexually suggestive content or activities, but was given no clarification as to what this referred to. Dextero reports the ban was later overturned, but still no explanation was given. Both Faria and DeVoe told Kotaku they believe they were targeted by mass misuse of Twitch's reporting tools, particularly since Faria's attire was appropriate to the fact that she was in the gym during the stream, something allowed by Twitch's community guidelines. Last year, Twitch pledged to take a stronger stance against sexual content, clarifying that its policy on streamer attire should be, quote, appropriate for a public street, mall, or restaurant, which streamers have argued is still vague and open to interpretation. Microsoft's rival streaming platform Mixer has been criticized for taking an even stronger stance, with clothing guidelines that seem to target women and even deem a strapless top as sexual enough to warrant an 18+ rating for a stream. So really quickly, I just want to say something really quick before letting you take over the mic for this, because I'm sure you have plenty to say on this. Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to pick this one. It would give you quite a bit to talk about. But really quickly, we live in a time where you cannot get away with stuff like this, as you can quite plainly see. When you're unclear about your sexuality content guidelines or anything like that, and I'm sure the people at Twitch didn't mean for it to be this, I'm sure their heads were in the right place, but they weren't expecting, I don't know. I want to say that the people running the Twitch people running this had the right idea, but in practice missed the target by a long shot. And we live in a time where you can't get away with missing the target as badly as this, because this is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, I'll let you kind of take over. So how do you feel about all of this? Apologies to people listening with headphones in.
Sorry. Just turn it down a little bit. Yeah. I'll turn that down close. Okay, first, let's start with, I'm going to say Kuko, because that's just what it looks like it should be pronounced as. The Chun-Li cosplay, one, can be visible on the streets and in malls and stuff, because that's what cosplay is. And the costume itself isn't that bad. Like, she's covered. Like, there's no chest, showing, no cleavage. Literally the only issue they have with it is her legs.
Yep.
Because if you don't know who Chun-Li is, just look it up. And I know they did actually change her costume recently, I believe, so that she's more covered. But it was just the legs that needed to be covered, because for some reason shoulders and legs drive men insane, and they can't stop thinking about bad things, and that's apparently women's fault. So stupid. And the sports bra and baggy shorts, she's covered, so I don't get it. What else was there? The drawing nudes thing, I don't know. That's kind of a weird thing. It's kind of like Titanic, but I don't know where to go with that.
It's still art, but the thing is, it wasn't nudes. they were scantily. It says they were scantily clad, but not fully naked. So I don't understand how that would break the guidelines. Naked, yeah. But if it is hentai, that's still. I'm pretty sure hentai means pornographic something in Japanese.
It's the Asian porn, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna Google this. Google's gonna be like, Jessica, what are you doing?
Okay. It says transformation.
Transformation. Whoa! Yep. I should have done that. Jessica, God. Okay.
Did you just? No. Did you just type in? Did you literally just type in hentai? Yeah, see, I typed hentai translation, and so I'm totally fine. I was just looking up what it meant.
I still had it on images because I was looking at her costume. So I just saw a bunch of stuff I did not need to see.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to scrub my eyes out later. Okay. So if they were not fully naked, then and they're not real people. So I don't really get, I guess, what the issue is with that.
Because it can still, if it's still the imagery, then it's still considered.
Okay, well, people can look at a freaking peach or a piece of chicken and they go insane. Like literally anything, people can mess up.
True.
The chicken thing is true, though. Did you see that? The person making like chicken parmesan or something, and they like cut the chicken, they like butterflied it or something.
Yeah.
So like, and they ran their finger. Oh, good God! But makes you very uncomfortable to watch. Okay, so the male streamer under the handle shift. The meme of SpongeBob. I mean, it's SpongeBob. What the heck? Stupid.
Yeah. That one made that one out of all of this, I think, made the least amount of sense.
Like it's SpongeBob
it's SpongeBob ripping his pants. It's from a funny episode.
It is
where he literally rips his pants and then makes a joke out of it.
There's a whole freaking song about it.
Yeah, inspired by the Beach Boys. I don't think they actually sang it, but it was based off of a Beach Boys song, and it's really good.
Well, the Beach Boys didn't sing it. No, this whole thing is stupid. I know they've been going on and off about this for a while, especially with women, what they can and can't wear, or how some moms who are streaming breastfeed. I know that's a whole other subject.
That's actually protected. They won't get flagged for that.
Good.
I mean, unless if it's an automatic thing, then it might still see. If it's automatic, then it's meant. Usually, something like this is automatic, and Twitch has like an automatic, like, I could be completely wrong about this too, but I know there's a lot. I know YouTube does something like this where it automatically picks up on certain imagery or certain words.
Like if the server sees that someone's naked, they like ban them?
Not necessarily the server, but yeah, it's like it's an AI that can track certain imagery, and if it matches a database of whatever is considered sexual content, it'll block it automatically, and then later on the streamer can report it as an error or what's the word? Contest it, I guess, to let the Twitch people know that, hey, this was a mistake, and then an actual person or customer service will actually lift the flag or whatever. But that can be annoying. That can still be annoying because they can still lose revenue because of that.
Right.
I know that was the issue with YouTube, but still.
Right. Well, then I started looking at the streamer clothing guidelines on Mixer, and first off, they have to define every single body part that they talk about. So they define shoulders. Well, they don't define shoulders. It just says shoulders. It defines breastbone, bust line, what your ribs are, the waist, or your hips. And then it shows what's never allowed, which some of these seems obvious. Like, you don't want to be nude.
Right.
It says you can't be shirtless if you're a guy or a girl, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one? Focusing the camera below the waist. Like, obviously you're doing something weird if you're doing that.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's like, that's a weird thing. Or like towel wrapped around the body. That's a weird thing too. But then it says like the breastbone can't be visible, which I guess I understand, because like the only way you would see the breastbone is if you have a very deep V on.
Okay.
Because the breastbone's like the part, that's like between the breasts.
Okay. Yeah.
or between your pecs if you're a guy. And then they
It's
go into like
essentially the
specific.
chest cavity, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then they go into specific. So like family friendly stream. Your clothing has to cover your entire visible body, with a few inches have to be above the bust line, and it cannot be strapless and should show little to no cleavage. Okay, first let me say, as somebody like me who doesn't have size A breasts or B, like, do you know how difficult it is to wear a shirt that shows little to no cleavage? Like, it's hard. Like, I'm gonna have to wear a turtleneck. It's stupid. Like, so, like, just the fact that, like, if you're showing little to no cleavage, or if you're showing a little bit, like, suddenly it's not family friendly anymore. And the fact that you can't wear a strapless to be part of the teen stream, like, what? Like, my shoulder and my collarbones are gonna, like, make you not be interested in the video game anymore and be interested in something else? No, most people don't even look at the camera of the person.
Yeah.
But I just, like, all of this is so stupid.
I get what they're trying to do, but they're not doing it very well.
No. It's the same thing that happens in schools where they told girls that they can't wear, camisole tops, like the cami, like the spaghetti strap tops, and they can't wear skirts that go like to your knee, or like they have to be, what was I told? It had to go past your fingertips, I think. So it was like below the knee. And like, I never enjoyed the rule because, one, it takes a lot of clothes that you could buy, and two, like, it's not my fault that Matthew in the corner of the classroom is focused on my ankles and not his math homework. You know?
Yeah, and when it comes to, I mean, to add to that, Twitch. You mentioned that Twitch, you can't be shirtless whether you're a guy or a girl.
Mixer, but
Mixer, excuse me. So in Mixer, you can't be showing your top half naked, whether you're male or female.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because that you mentioned school, because I remember being in high school and guys would take their shirt off in gym like all the time, and nobody would ever enforce it. So it's like, is that not allowed? Because, I mean, if it's not, then how come it's not being enforced? But you would lose your mind if a woman took their shirt off in high school or in gym or whatever.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, you need to enforce both sides then. If that's going to be the rule, then you need to enforce it when anybody does it.
Right. Well, it's because the men's chest area isn't sexualized.
Right.
So if they take off their shirt, it's just a shirtless kid or man. If a woman does it, then it's porn.
Yeah. But I mean, staying on the topic of the streaming stuff.
This is still on topic.
Mixer. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's still on topic. But I mean, when it comes to Mixer, they the comment about Mixer in the article saying that it was criticized for having an even stronger stance. I think the reason why I wanted to bring this up in the first place was, first off, that I knew that this would be something that you would have a lot to say on, and the fact that this is a headline because we live in a world where poorly constructed guidelines or guidelines that don't seem fair aren't going to be able to. Companies aren't going to be able to get away with that. It's going to get criticized pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I understand what Twitch is trying to do, but they're not doing it very well because it's confusing. No one knows what's going on. No one knows what's allowed and what's not allowed, let alone whether or not it's the rules are appropriate. they're confusing. So no one knows what's allowed. No one knows what's not allowed because it's not very clear.
Well, they're not whether they had it written in stone, they're still not making it clear, because I know they've had multiple situations within the last several months where they would, slap somebody's wrist about something, but somebody else would do something similar and they received like no repercussions.
Right. That's also going to come down to politics. If it's one of their top streamers, they, for profit's sake or for business sake, they can't really, they're going to have a harder time enforcing, they'd have a harder time enforcing Ninja over, I'm trying to, Coffee Mug 63. I don't know, some random name. They're going to have a much harder time enforcing their top streamer than somebody else, because it's like, well, what do we, at that point, that's like a gray area. Like, what are you supposed to do? In one point, this guy's keeping our businesses alive, but at the same time, he's breaking our community guidelines. What are we supposed to do? Which that's a whole other topic in morals, but still.
Yeah. Well, I know YouTube does the same thing.
Yeah, that's why YouTube's going to crap. Even though I put the podcast on there anyway. Either way, the guidelines aren't clear. If they clear this up and figure it out, and the other thing is, the other issue with this too is, where was it? There was a comment in here about how. Here it is. It says both Faria and DeVoe told Kotaku they believe that they were targeted by mass misuse of Twitch's reporting tools. There's going to be a lot of people in the audience that just decide, oh, well, we don't like this person, so we're just going to report them for something that they're not doing, which is just the toxicity of the internet. There's going to be a bunch of people that report someone for, like, hey, this person is this person's naked, so we're just going to start reporting them, saying that, oh, they're doing porn on a stream because we don't like them.
Right.
If Twitch gets a report from hundreds and hundreds of people all at once, they're going to think that something's going on, and they're going to get shut down based on the AI pretty much of the reporting tools, what that's going to do. And that's something that needs to be dealt with too. I don't know how to go about dealing with that, because that's kind of hard.
I don't know. When it comes down to it, I understand what they're doing, because there are people of both genders who will go on and use their body
to make money,
try and draw in people.
Right.
And while that sucks and is wrong, it unfortunately means that people who are not like that have to deal with like stupid rules. Just because Jessica Rabbit is, wearing something that just barely covers her nipples, doesn't mean that Jessica Stasek has to wear a turtleneck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like two unrelated instances that end up having to where two unrelated instances where the consequences of A, or that the actions of person A ends up making person B have to pay the consequences. And that's how it is with pretty much anything, unfortunately. This Twitch, fix your tools, fix your guidelines, or just be more clear about it, because this is obviously people are confused about it because of everything that's in this article. Someone wearing gym attire gets reported for sexually suggestive clothing. Particularly since Faria's attire was appropriate to the fact that she was in the gym during the stream. That kind of sucks. Because if she's a real life streamer, which is basically people who vlog live on Twitch, for those of you that don't know, so she was just doing her gym routine. She was going to the gym. I don't know who she is. I don't watch her, but by the sounds of it, it was just business as usual. She was streaming from the gym, doing her whatever. She was at the gym just like any other day that she'd be live streaming, and then all of a sudden she gets tagged with that because she's wearing sexually suggestive attire, even though she was wearing a sports bra and baggy shorts, which is gym attire, being at the gym, which is allowed by the community guidelines on Twitch. So that's very confusing that she would get flagged for something like that. Which that was one of the cases where she believed that it could have been because of Twitch's reporting tools. But either way, I'm sure this is going to unfold a little bit more as the month goes on. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more as more light gets shed on that. But
right. Well, if I'm looking at the right photo of the Frahia girl,
send it to me and I can put it up in the video if it's not.
Yeah, it looks like it's the right thing. But she's wearing, like, she's pretty decently covered. She's got like men's basketball shorts on. She's got the tennis shoes and socks. She has a sports bra on, and then she has it looks like an open, like a button up like t-shirt blouse on over top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's pretty good for a gym, honestly. And I go to the gym 4 times a week at least. Like, I know what people wear.
Yeah, I don't go to the gym. I probably should.
Or you can just use the new Switch game.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to do that instead. I don't need to go to a gym. Anyway.
I mean, if it's good, you'd save money doing it that way, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, send me the picture that you found, and I can put it up in the video version.
Yeah, just sent it. Like, she's actually wearing less than Kuko was. So, but I still think that the gym is like totally okay. That's what I guess I'm just trying to say that all of this is very stupid and confusing. And if they're going to make rules, they need to stick to it for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like she looks dressed for the gym. That's it. Like,
like she doesn't even, I mean, like, I've seen people wear like the short booty shorts, a sports bra, and like that's it. And like, you still don't really think anything of it because it's like gym attire. Like, she's got the shirt on over top of it and men's basketball shorts.
Right. Yeah, so that's even more covered than a typical gym attire then.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, she was dressed for the gym. She was at the gym. So my guess is that Twitch probably wouldn't have flagged that itself. So if a bunch of people started reporting her, then that's going to happen. I mean, and if you're on Twitter more often, you even see, like, this is a little off topic, but it just kind of goes to show what the online community can be like when they really don't like someone. And if you know who Lucy, how am I blanking on her last name? Lucy O'Brien from IGN. She's gay and very, she's left leaning politically. So whenever she goes and talks about pretty much anything in games, where I know when she reviewed Days Gone, she mentioned that she wasn't a big fan of the story. The story was the world was it was still fun. And she loved the protagonist. Well, a bunch of people hated on her for being like, they called her like an SJW and, all of that fun stuff. And then said that, oh, you just don't like the game because it's a male protagonist. And it's like, no, the male protagonist is one of the things she did like about the game. You guys didn't even read the review. You're just hating on her. So it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what the content is. If people don't like a person, they're just going to downvote them and report them just because they don't like them. And I think that this is an example of that, with her being an IRL streamer, just being at the gym. A bunch of people probably took that opportunity to be like, oh, we're just going to report her because we don't like her. It just goes to show that there's a lot of toxic people online, and this is where they get off. And it's very frustrating to see, because it's like they're just doing their job. They're living their life. Why do you have to hate them? It's not their fault. It's not their fault that you hate your life. Maybe you should go do something about that.
Right.
It's a very toxic behavior. Not to slam on people who aren't enjoying their life, but attacking other people for enjoying theirs is not going to make you feel any better. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out, because I get frustrated whenever I see her get attacked, because I respect her as, a journalist a lot. And I don't know these Twitch streamers. I'm not on Twitch that much, but I'm sure that they have just as much of a respect of, an audience that respects them. And unfortunately, there's a bunch of people who don't and take advantage of stuff like that and with Twitch's community guidelines not being with their guidelines not being very clear, a lot of people will take advantage of that.
Right.
But anyway, I think that's enough on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about it more as it unfolds. I'm sure there's going to be an update on it. Twitch is going to have to make a move on that now. But I'm sure we'll bring that up later. Moving on to something a little bit more positive and really exciting. So this is another gamesindustry.biz article. This is Reggie Fils-Aime joins Reggie Fils-Aime joins New York Video Game Critics Circle board. This is by Rebecca Valentine over at gamesindustry.biz. Former Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aime has joined the board of nonprofit New York Video Game Critics Circle, with his election effectively immediately. Fils-Aime joins Ted Houghton, Harold Goldberg, Catherine Soros, and Mark Mayer on the board of the organization, which is composed of around 40 gaming journalists and dedicated to advocating for educational and mentorship opportunities in underserved communities. Its largest projects include the mentorship, workshop, and scholarship-focused DreamYard project at DreamYard Prep School in the Bronx, as well as mentorship and community events at the Henry Street Settlement and Older Adult Technology Services. Fils-Aime said, quote, "Drawing from my years of experience in the gaming industry for having a big picture perspective, and from my roots as a kid from the Bronx, joining the New York Video Game Critics Circle board of directors feels like a natural fit. I have an admiration for the work that the NYVGCC has accomplished in giving back to communities since its inception, and can't wait to jump in and contribute to the success of the organization." For those of you who don't know who Reggie Fils-Aime is, which if you're listening to this, you probably know who he is. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, Reggie Fils-Aime was the president of Nintendo of America since his first E3 presentation was the announcement of Zelda Twilight Princess on GameCube and Switch. So he's been around for a long time as far as being in the industry. Most likely for years before that. You don't just jump into the industry as the president of Nintendo.
Right.
But I liked to call Reggie Fils-Aime kind of the goofy dad of the game industry, because that's the personality that he has. You can't not love him. When you see him on, when you saw him at E3 presentations and in the Nintendo Directs, he just kind of fit that energy mm-hmm. in a way that fits. Nintendo's Directs are usually kind of cringy and awkward just because they're so you have to watch them to understand what I'm saying.
There's on Nintendo.
Yeah, it's a Nintendo. Just watch the Directs and you'll understand what I mean by you love it, but at the same time you're just like, oh, Nintendo. but Reggie fit that energy in a way that you couldn't help love. He was positive. He was like goofy dad type cringy, where you're just like face palm, but you can't help but laugh.
Yeah, he was like a big Nintendo teddy bear.
Yeah, he was the giant teddy bear of the industry. You can't not love him. But him going to I was sad to. A lot of people were sad to see him go, but it's like not in the sense that he wasn't fired from Nintendo. He was just ready to move on to different things.
Right.
It's sad to see him go, but you're excited to see where he was going. And this is where he's going, and he couldn't have picked a better place to go. He's going to be using his knowledge in marketing and everything that he's done at Nintendo to help kids in the Bronx that don't have the greatest opportunity. At least that's what this seems like. Joining a board of, a mentorship, pretty much. If that's at least where his focus is going to be, is doing the mentorship, the workshop, and the scholarship stuff at DreamYard. I don't really have a whole lot to say on this. It was just like I wanted to bring this up for anyone that might not have heard about this going on.
Yeah.
Because Reggie is, I never got to meet him. You're not, if you're not, higher in the industry, you don't exactly get to meet with the president of Nintendo. But I mean, with him being who he is and doing something like this, I think this organization is going to thrive with him there. I think Reggie is going to be like, I think he's going to really help this organization thrive with how big of a name he has and the experience that he has on top of everybody that's already in the organization. 40 gaming journalists, there's probably quite a few people who I might recognize. I don't know. I don't know if they have an actual list of the people that are there. But either way, Reggie being a part of this, I think, is going to be really, 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 really awesome.
It is not. I mean, it's his hometown too. So
right.
I mean, that's really cool of him to do, to go back home and be like, let's help.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's pretty much what I was gonna add, to see him go back to his hometown to take the experience that he's learned, or the experience that he's had and the knowledge that he's gained in his long career at Nintendo. He'll be able to really help his community, and that's really admirable.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm really glad that he's going I'm really glad that he's going into something that really fits his personality. Him being the sort of the goofy dad, or the giant goofball teddy bear of the industry, going into something that's going to be mentoring kids. You couldn't ask for a better mentor than someone like that.
Right.
And I'm very excited to see what kind of work he does there. I'm sure that I'll bring it up more as I research that a little bit more. But yeah, that's really awesome of him. Yeah, so that's a short topic. Yeah. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was really cool.
Yay, Reggie.
Getting to a little bit of a bigger topic. E3 2020 pitch shows move towards celebrities, consumers, and influencers. This is by Matthew Handrahan over at gamesindustry.biz. And I'll pull up the actual slides. If you click on the gamedaily.biz link in the show or in the topics list, you'll see like a slideshow of all of that stuff. And I'll have some of the slides in the YouTube video, but I don't want to put all of them in there. I don't want to end up getting tagged for copyright, because I'm sure that pitch is protected, I'm sure. But if you want to see the whole slideshow, I'll put the link in the show notes and in the YouTube description. But it says, the article says, the Entertainment Software Association is considering a new look for E3 next year, which would see the long-running event focus more on consumers, influencers, and celebrities. GameDaily.biz has attained a pitch deck proposal for E3 2020, which broadly positions the event as a, quote, fan, media, and influencer festival. In the ESA's in the ESA's proposal, marketing activations involving celebrities and influencers would become a key feature of the E3 show floor. The pitch deck included an example of the Los Angeles Lakers playing a basketball video game in front of fans and mentioned official relationships with talent agencies like the CAA and UTA. In addition, the ESA's membership has approved an additional 10,000 badges for consumer attendees in 2020, which almost doubles the 15,000 available this year. The extra burden would potentially be alleviated by a system that allows attendees to book time slots for specific games through a digital app. While waiting times would be shorter as a result, the pitch deck also described plans for, quote, cutainment, essentially direct marketing opportunities aimed at attendees as they stand in line. With this greater focus on consumers, E3 may be reorganized so it has an, quote, industry-only day on Tuesday before opening its doors to the public from Wednesday. The need for E3 to reform has been debated for many years, but it was especially apparent in 2019. Major companies like Sony and Activision were absent from the show floor, while EA continued to build its own presence away from the event. In an interview with GamesIndustry.biz at the time, Bethesda's Pete Hines said, quote, "We can't have everybody deciding to go off in their own little directions to do this or that. I think folks need to be here. They need to participate. If we have to change the size or scope of that, okay. But I want it to be something that all of us as an industry get together and support, and have it be something that's positive and sustainable." And I highly agree with Pete Hines. E3 has always been kind of the main marketing event of the year for the industry. And when people start to split off, it kind of splits the industry up into its own separate thing. You know, the family kind of goes off in their own directions and doesn't want to sit at the table at Thanksgiving anymore.
Right.
E3 is becoming less and less profitable for a lot of the industry. I don't know the specifics of it, but not a lot of bigger companies don't want to participate in it anymore for whatever reason. But I think E3 needs to be more of, it's a lot more than just a marketing event. It is a business event. It's an industry event. It's a huge marketing event for the industry to come together, consumers and industry alike, at least in recent years. Before, it was an industry only event and it was for marketing specifically.
Right.
But not only as a marketing event, but it was a chance for the entire industry to just come together, celebrate, stuff that they're working on, get excited for what each other's working on. Just like the Game Awards is it's a marketing event itself too, but it's a celebration of the year of the success that the industry made during that entire year, and everyone comes together and hangs out and celebrates the year. It's like, when you look at the industry like it's a family, E3 and the Game Awards alike are basically a time for the family to come together and celebrate its wins, reflect on its losses, and just get together and, not compete with each other, but just enjoy the presence of other people in the industry. Yeah, you are marketing, but it's never been about, at least from my eyes, it's never been about fighting each other or trying to get the audience to buy this game over that game. Not really competition. But I mean, it's still a business, but at the same time, it's an industry that's celebrated as an industry that stays together. I don't know. But either way, this E3 2020 pitch basically looks like an idea of what E3 can do to become to stay relevant or to become more relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it, this whole Qtainment thing, this Qtainment idea kind of reminded me of, if anyone's been to Disney World, especially in the last decade or so, waiting in line is a lot more entertainment. I can't get the word out. Is a lot more entertaining in Disney World than at any other amusement park. I mean, Universal has some cool stuff too, but when you're waiting in line, there's something there for you to look at and interact with.
Yeah.
Which makes waiting in line a lot less of just, oh, I'm waiting in line to do the ride. It becomes a part of the ride, which takes a little bit from UX design, user experience design, which UX is a lot more than just the experience of the ride itself or the experience of the game itself. UX, Celia Hoden, who wrote a book on UX and the neuroscience of it, talked about UX as the experience as a whole, and that includes marketing surrounding it, demos, the box art, even everything that the consumer is going to be interacting with in some shape or form is part of the user experience. So if you have to wait in line to play the E3 demo, part of that user experience is going to be in waiting in line to play the demo.
Right.
And if you make waiting in line entertaining and an entertaining part of the marketing portion of the game, people are going to remember that.
Yeah, I think it's. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just kind of finishing that off. It's going to make an impact on them, and they're going to remember that when the game actually comes out.
Right. I was gonna say, like, it's especially when you are doing something that requires you to wait in line, like say a roller coaster. You wait in line for anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours, and you finally get on the ride, and it lasts about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And while you had fun on the roller coaster, it's almost like makes you wonder, was it worth it to wait? And I think Qtainments that's what it's called, right? Qtainment.
Yeah, that's what they called it.
I think that's a really smart idea. I think it was last year, either last year or 2 years ago, I was walking around the Great Lakes Crossing Mall, and they had Santa Claus there. And the Santa Claus little thingy had Qtainment, like, where the kids would, like, because it's like the kind of like that Z, the snake line, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Where it just kind of wraps around. So, like, each thing they went into, so they're like, instead of being like line next to line to next to line as it wraps around, they like almost went through kind of like a maze in a way. And so one wall of the maze had like a TV with like, Rudolph on it. And then the next wall had like snowflakes that they could like interchange or move around. And the next wall had something else. And then finally they get to see Santa. So like the entire time, especially for kids too, the entire time the kids had like something to do that led them up to seeing, the big man himself. And I thought that was like the coolest thing to see like in person.
Yeah.
Well, not in person. I didn't go see Santa, but I saw it as I was walking by.
Yeah. And without even participating in it, that made an impact on you.
I mean, yeah, because it was like 1 or 2 years ago and I still remember it.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. Like anyone who's been to Disney World remembers not only the ride, but waiting in line for it. Like and this is still on topic because we're talking about like how Qtainment really works. And with E3 considering doing Qtainment, this could make E3 a lot more relevant and memorable for people that go. But I'm a huge Disney fan. Like I love going to Disney World. If I could afford to go every year, I definitely would. But part of the reason why I love Disney World so much is because, you know, the designer in me can't help but analyze how they do everything. When you walk in, the user experience of actually being in Disney World, you walk on Main Street, and the idea is that the outside world is cut off. You can't see the outside world. When you're in Disney World, you're in Disney World.
Right.
They want to keep you as immersed as you possibly can, as they can possibly get you. So when you walk in, all of a sudden there's all these smells. You smell candy and food, and just this idea that that first time you walk in, you can't see the outside world. And when you go through Main Street and turn around the corner, there's the castle straight ahead. And that's kind of the center point, and you can see the castle from everywhere else in the park, using that as kind of a guide, as, you know, your compass for the whoops, 1 second, I'm getting a phone call.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Sorry, yeah, it wasn't important. But anyway,
I'm trying to reach you about your car warranty.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was. I couldn't hear anybody, so. But anyway, so whenever you go on rides in Disney World, there's a lot more to the ride than just the ride itself. You have an experience just waiting in line. You know, if you've ever waited in line for, so there's this new Frozen ride in Epcot, which, being a fan of the movie, I wanted to check it out. But I couldn't get a fast pass for it because they were sold out. They ran out of fast passes for the day. So I was just like, all right, well, I want to go on it just to say that I was on it, and checked it out. Fun ride, not worth a 3-hour wait, but I can't help but remember the wait in line. So it takes place, so the ride is in Norway. And when you actually get into the building, you're in a town in Norway. I think it's supposed to be Arendelle, which is the town in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels and looks like you're in that town at night. Like, all of a sudden, you're no longer in Disney World. You're in Norway, and it's nighttime. And that was very memorable. And I think I enjoyed the wait in line more than I did the actual ride. Or at least the wait in line made it a more of an impact on me than actually being on the ride. And the reason is because they put everything into that experience, not just the ride, but making sure that while you're waiting in line, there's something to enjoy while you're there. Even though it was just kind of looking around, it was something memorable. And they do that with just about any of their rides. You know, if you go on the if you go on the Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, that's more of a children's ride. There's a bunch of stuff for the children to interact with. Like, there's toys and games and stuff while you're waiting in line. But it's in a spot where the parents can see them from anywhere in line. So it's like, you can keep your eye on your kids while waiting in line, and your kids can be having fun playing with other kids whose parents are waiting in line too.
That's actually pretty magical.
It's awesome. Well, it's magical, and it's genius. The kids are entertained.
I meant magical for, like, the parents. Like, that's cool that they don't have to worry about keeping their child entertained.
Yeah. Or worry about keeping them safe without them running off. They can see them from the line wherever they are. They can get some peace and quiet just waiting in line, while the kids are still having fun interacting with something while waiting in line. And more rides are doing that at Disney World. So it's like, there's something in this whole idea of Qtainment, and if E3 does something like that, it's going to make it a lot more relevant. And like I said, the book that I read from Celia Hoden, there's something there. There's research to prove that good UX design or user experience design can make a much better impact when you consider the entire user experience, not just the product itself. So this whole Qtainment thing is going to play into the user experience as well. And that's going to make the game a lot more memorable, when it actually starts to roll out the game. When the game actually comes out, the audience is going to remember the experience they had just waiting in line to see the demo at E3. And I think that's important for them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have anything to add to that?
No, just that, I mean, especially if it is something that's more for influencers than just, a business meeting. I mean, the world is run on social media now. So if you can have somebody entertained from the moment they step in line to the moment they're done with whatever experience they're there for, I mean, most of these people are going to be on their phones or tablets or whatever, and they're going to be either live tweeting or live, whatever, the entire line. If you can have someone live tweeting good things from the moment they step in line till the moment they're done, I mean, that's really good, PR for your company or your game or whatever. And I think it's something that they're trying probably also to keep in mind as well.
Right. And Nintendo actually started doing that this year. Every one of their games had like this little hub. Like when you you still have to wait in line to get in. And once you're like in the demo room or the demo area, that's where the user experience starts. But they need to go further than that. Have an experience for them for actually waiting in line. But Nintendo did have a good start on this, because when you went to demo Luigi's Mansion, you were in this dark mansion looking thing. There's a bunch of props and stuff that fit into the whole Luigi's Mansion theme, and it was really cool. When you actually went into the demo room, you were sort of in this haunted area playing the game, which was a really interesting experience. Same thing with when you were demoing the Pokemon game. All of the kiosks to play the game was in this stadium sort of setup. So it was like you were in a Pokemon stadium to play the demo, which I didn't actually get to play it. The line was always too long, and all of the fast passes for that game were gone in seconds. But if more and more companies do something like that, it's going to make waiting in line a much better experience. Anyone who plays the demo at E3 is going to have a much better experience to remember, instead of, I had to wait in line for so long and it put a bad taste in my mouth for the game. Who is calling me? What the hell? Not important. Scam. That's very annoying. 2 phone calls in the last, 10 minutes?
Oh, I've had it happen before. It sucks.
But yeah, so E3 can definitely take some notes from how Nintendo did it, and get an idea of that, and by exploring how Disney World does waiting in line, because you can learn something from that. Same thing with Universal. If you've ever waited in line for one of the Harry Potter rides, it's wild.
I haven't gotten to do that yet.
Oh, well, one of the rides that's in Hogwarts, it's like you're actually walking through Hogwarts. It's pretty wild.
I want to go.
They've got holograms of Harry, Ron, and Hermione talking to you.
What? For real?
Not like talking to you. They're saying something that's repeated every couple minutes, but
still.
Yeah, no, technology's AI tech is not quite there yet.
That'd be insane.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. But E3 can definitely the ESA can definitely take notes from that and incorporate. Actually, the ESA and any developers that are going to be at E3 can take notes from that for Qtainment, because that's going to make the game much more memorable when it actually comes out.
I agree.
Okay, moving on to the next topic. PlayStation teams with UN to reduce carbon footprint of game hardware. This is by Chris Kerr over at Gamasutra from the 23rd. This was actually yesterday. Yesterday as of this recording. It'll be a couple days ago if you're listening to this. But So the UN Climate Summit was this week, which there was actually an emotional speech that someone gave that I'm blanking on her name, but highly suggest going to watch that. It's only a couple minutes. Greta.
Oh, the little girl.
Yeah, Greta something. Her last name starts with a T. I'm blanking on it right now.
It's like Thumble or something like that.
Thunberg. I don't know if that's how you actually.
Thunberg, yeah.
Thunberg. I don't know if that's actually how to pronounce it. But she's Swedish, if I remember correctly.
She's a genius. That's what she is.
Yeah. But anyway, go watch that. It's a really good speech. But anyway, so PlayStation teams with UN to reduce carbon footprint of game hardware. It says PlayStation has joined forces with the United Nations to fight climate change through the quote playing for the planet initiative. The company announced the news during the UN Climate Summit and said it will join other games industry leaders in working towards a more sustainable future. With that goal in mind, the console maker explained it has already made efforts to reduce the power consumption of the PS4 using efficient technologies like system-on-a-chip architecture, integrating a high-performance graphics processor, die shrink, power scaling, and energy-saving modes. Those efforts alone have already helped the company reduce its carbon emissions by an estimated 16 million metric tons, which should increase to 29 million metric tons over the next decade. PlayStation also revealed its next generation console will be able to suspend gameplay using less power than the PS4 and pledged to complete a carbon footprint assessment of its gaming services and report the energy efficiency measures employed at its data centers. Sony Interactive Entertainment president and CEO Jim Ryan said, quote, Our commitments are not only related to hardware and operations, we are also keen to help inform people interested in sustainability goals. We have committed to working with the industry and climate experts to develop reference information for use by game developers that wish to include sustainability themes in games. In addition, we will investigate potential PSVR applications that can raise awareness of climate issues and climate experts. At PlayStation, we believe games have the power to ignite social change through educating people, evoking emotions, and inspiring hope. We could not be more proud to be part of the Playing for the Planet Alliance and the commitments announced. We look forward to seeing what the industry can achieve together. So this is pretty awesome, especially what Jim Ryan said about using PSVR applications to help educate people, evoke emotions, and inspiring hope, which sounds like they could be funding games that, serious games or games for impact that focus on educating people on the environment, which I am all for.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with him that games can make a bigger I think that games can make a bigger impact than a movie or a TV show or a book can, because there's interaction there, which makes a bigger impact than any of the other mediums, because those don't have interaction where games do.
Right.
It makes a bigger impact when you have a hand in it. Even if it's a linear story, the player has interaction there. They're a part of the story rather than just being an onlooker or someone who's witnessing it. But I think this is really cool, especially with the UN, with the summit. Wow, I can't talk today. With the climate summit being as big as it is, especially this year, with Greta's speech going viral and everybody reacting to that kind of negatively, unfortunately. Not everybody, but there's tons of people that consider climate change to be a leftist hoax or something, and it's like, it's not. The planet's we're damaging the planet, and the research proves that. But I think this is really good for Sony to do. It might not help a ton in the grand scheme of it, but I think this could be the first step to more people in the industry participating in something like this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know what Xbox's involvement is with this. I'm gonna look that up right now. I was just saying I'm not sure what Xbox's stance is on this. Like if they're doing something if they're doing kind of the same thing.
If they've even said anything really yet.
Let's see. Yeah. According to website, primagames.com, this is Xbox and PlayStation are joining forces to fight climate change. There's a part under Xbox Scarlet that says, and I'm quoting this article directly, it says, Microsoft is taking a slightly different approach, though with the same goal. Their promise is to make close to 1 million future Xbox systems carbon neutral, which would be a first for consoles. A power-saving feature similar to PlayStation's hasn't been revealed yet, but that doesn't mean that won't factor in. The two companies have mentioned both that they are working hard to be more mindful with future generations, so more information should be filtering in over the coming months, especially with all of the recent media attention on a certain 16-year-old that is challenging the comfort of politicians and their role in what's currently happening with our planet. So Xbox is Microsoft is looking into something like that, and I'm sure we're going to hear more of that later. Maybe they have something in the works that wasn't ready to be revealed just yet. Maybe, but with yeah. I mean, with how much Phil Spencer does to better the Xbox brand, I don't doubt that he would do something to combat climate change through the Xbox. Even though his primary focus was more toward, games in general and helping close the gap between women and men in the industry, or the amount of men and women in the industry. But either way, right. I don't doubt that Xbox is going to say something about what the Xbox Scarlet will do, or what, I forgot to check the date on that article, actually. I have no idea when that was. I don't know if that's a recent story. Oh, yeah, it's from... Whoops. Oh, that was actually 3 hours ago. That went up this morning. So, yeah, that's definitely a recent article. So Xbox is probably does have something in the works that they weren't ready to reveal yet. But they are doing something to make the next Xbox carbon neutral. So that's definitely on the same path.
Right.
But there aren't a lot of details there yet.
But it's a start, which is good.
Yeah. So what do you think about this? I didn't really let you talk about this much yet.
No, it's okay. Honestly, I think anything that we can do in any business or whatever, I think anything we can do to help. I mean, that's what it all comes down to, because I know our time span, I don't have the exact numbers right now, but like, I know they thought we had a while until like either we were flooded or whatever. And I know that time span has been drastically changed to even sooner than we thought, because of how quickly the world is kind of dying. Yeah. So I think anything we can do to help be here, for a lot longer, and to help, our kids and their kids and, generations to come, let's do it.
Yeah, there's from June 4th, Live Science or Live Science. I'm not sure how reliable that specific source is, but it says human civilization will crumble by 2050 if we don't stop climate change now, which is that's according to a paper. So it's like we still have some time, but
not really.
We have time if we act now. Right. But the thing is there's still a lot of people in high positions that care more about making money than saving the planet.
Yep.
Because they'll be gone by then anyway. So why not just go out with a bang, right? Well, okay. Well, what about your kids and the kids after them, if we even make it that far?
Right.
But the fact that the industry that this industry is going to try and do something to kind of meet in the middle where they still get to make a lot of money, but help reduce carbon emissions from themselves at the same time. They're investing money into consoles that make a smaller carbon footprint. And it's like, I don't understand why other businesses and industries can't do that too. Yeah, it's going to cost money, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be making tons of money while helping save the planet. Why can't you do that too?
Right.
It's not like you're going to be losing profits. You're just not going to be making as big of profits, which you don't really need. But either way, I think I'm really happy that the industry is doing something like that, because I will always stand by the industry no matter what its faults are. I know I always stood by the industry when it comes to like the whole violent video game thing, when it comes to gaming disorder. And I think issues like this really shows what this industry is, because they come together to help that issue. And Xbox and PlayStation both are looking at ways to solve the whole climate change things, at least on their end. And I think that's really awesome. I don't think Nintendo makes a huge carbon footprint. I'm not really sure what their stance is, but
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if Nintendo has anything on that.
I mean, they're also Japan too.
Yeah, their laws are going to be far different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see anything as far as Nintendo goes. But yeah, with them being based in Japan, that's going to be a little bit different. Well, Sony is in Japan too. Yep,
you're right.
Microsoft is the only big name.
So I'm not sure then.
Yeah. Well, I think most of PlayStation headquarters is here though. I think that's the difference. Sony's headquarters is in Japan, but PlayStation's headquarters, they have three main headquarters. One, the global and Americas region headquarters are in San Mateo, California, and another one is in Tokyo. Anyway, so yeah, most of their headquarters is here, but either way, they're still doing something about it.
Right.
The fact that they'll be up to nearly 30 million. What was it? 30 million. Whoops, I'm looking at the wrong one. Reducing carbon emissions by almost 30 million metric tons, 29 million metric tons over the next decade. Which is a pretty high number. I think that can definitely make a significant dent in carbon emissions.
Oh yeah, for sure.
At least coming from them, with Xbox following suit as well, most likely. I think that's going to be. I don't know. We'll talk about it more when Xbox reveals more about that. If they're even working on anything like that. It sounds like they are.
Yeah, we'll have to watch it unfold for sure.
Yeah, this is going to be something we'll be following. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that.
No, just let's make the world a better place, please.
Yes.
Please.
Do some actual research, read science. Anyway, moving on to the next topic. This is our last topic too. Steam must allow digital games to be resold, rules French court. This is by Alyssa McCallum from Gamma Sutra from the 19th. It says a French court has ruled against Valve at the close of a 2015 case, finding that a number of aspects of Steam aren't up to snuff as far as the law is concerned. The ruling marks the initial end of a suit brought against Valve by the French consumer organization UFC Q Choisir, alleging that Valve's storefront operates on several policies that are anti-consumer and arguably illegal. But as Kotaku notes, Valve has plans to appeal the decision. The most potentially impactful finding of the proceedings is that Valve, a purveyor of digital goods, must not block its users from being able to resell the digital games they buy on the platform. If upheld, that decision could impact how digital games are managed in France and the European Union as a whole, though nothing will play out until the appeal is said and done. The court also took issue with 14 overall clauses in Steam's subscriber agreement, including Valve's rules on its ownership of community-created content, its zero responsibility stance for cases when users have personal information stolen, and the fact that Steam doesn't allow users to recoup money from their Steam wallet if their account is closed, deleted, or banned. Though Valve notes in its statement to Kotaku that no changes to Steam will be made until the appeal is settled, Valve will be liable for a fine of up to 3,000 euros per day if it doesn't change its rules within 1 month of the dust settling. I have mixed reactions to this, to be honest. I think it's good. I think it's good for consumers that they'd be able to resell their games. But how will that affect the developers' profits if they do? I don't think developers will not have to pay that back, most likely. No. If someone resells their game back to Steam, developers probably will not see that money, but they don't have to pay anything back themselves. At least that's what I would expect.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's like, if, say you work at Target, I mean, if someone buys, a quilt and they don't like the quilt anymore, I don't have to pay the quilt out of my paycheck. It's just, as a worker, it's not my business. So Valve would have to pay it back.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're working at, if you were working for the distributor, you as an employee of the distributor don't have to pay that money back. But this, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
The distributor itself has to pay that money back,
yes.
Not its employees.
Yes.
What my concern,
because the developer just does what they're told to do for the most part. If the game is it's not their fault necessarily.
Well,
necessarily, I'm just saying, like if they're told to make this specific game, they do as they're told. Then the idea of the game belongs to, whoever, not necessarily the developer.
Right. Well, there's a ton of logistics that go into that. The developer is responsible for the quality. It really depends on the game, I guess. It depends on the hierarchy of the development cycle. Like if it's an EA developer, EA is going to be responsible for most of the bigger decisions. The developer is mostly following orders, or making a game based on EA's constraints. Whereas an independent one can make the game that they want to make. And if the game turns out bad, that's on them.
Right.
Yeah, well,
but if they're following orders, if the idea itself is crappy, then it's the idea, not the developer, whether they put it in a whole bunch of work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Either way, back to the article. I think I was listening to Kind of Funny Games Daily on my way home from Champaign this weekend, and they were talking about this article too. When I first heard about this, I thought, "Oh, that's great." Gamers can, if they don't like a game on Steam, it can be just like if they bought it from a store, they can return it if they're unhappy with the experience.
Right.
Well, when you're buying a digital game, there's nothing to return. I mean, obviously, you can get it to work. If someone resells their game back to Valve or a digital game back to the distributor, on the coding side, you basically just have to turn off permissions to play that game and download that game from the user. it shouldn't be too hard to implement. Theoretically, shouldn't be hard to implement. You're basically turning off permissions from them to use that product, which would be the equivalent of you resold the game. You no longer have that game.
Mhm.
The weird thing about this is how this would work financially, both from the consumer side and Valve and the developers. Like if a gamer were to resell the digital game back to Valve, they no longer have access to that game. They get their money back, or a certain percentage of their money back, and no longer have access to that game. But with it being a digital game, are they getting a used game price back? And then would that code be considered a used code? That wouldn't.
I wouldn't think so.
Right. So Valve would essentially be giving the same price back, most likely. I don't really know the logistics of all of this. I didn't dig into the deeper details. It's more or less the idea of the logistics of this. I don't have the actual numbers. I don't know how that works. If they did release something on how that would actually work, which I don't think they did, because the verdict isn't, or not the verdict, the appeal isn't final yet. So I'm sure not all of the actual case files are released. But when it comes to this, the other thing is the developer. Does the developer see any of that money when they resell it? Does the developer have to pay anything back if the game's resold? Most likely not, because they didn't sell it directly. They sold it to Valve, or Valve has that license. Valve is the one who sold the game. They're the ones who have to pay it back to the gamer or to the consumer if the consumer decides to resell it.
They might just do, maybe instead of game by game, they might do a number of like the month. And so however many you sold that month is what you would get paid, and they would just equal out whatever was returned. So they might do more bigger picture than day by day.
Like how many of that game was resold within that month?
Yeah, either resold or not, I guess. Just like, so if they sold 50, 10 were returned, and 2 were resold, I guess, then that would be, what did I just say, 42 total?
I think so.
So they would just get the profits for 42 games.
The developer would, or Valve would?
Yeah, Valve or the developer, yeah.
That's where I kind of get confused, because normally in the consumer market, if once the game is sold to a distributor, the developer or the publisher, whoever is the one that sees the profits, or sees the direct sales. I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. Okay, so if the developer sells to a distributor, so the developer has the game on Steam. When a consumer buys the game on Steam, Steam gets, what was it, 30%? Steam gets 30% of that. The rest of that 70% goes to the developer. If the consumer is allowed to resell that game back to Valve, the developer doesn't lose any of that 70% cut of the initial sales. But Valve has to pay back their share of that 30%. Because if the game is being resold to Valve, they have to pay their cut. The developer doesn't have to pay anything, I think.
So when you're saying developer in this sense, you just mean an individual, a AAA company.
Yeah, whoever owns the IP or whoever owns that actual game as a product.
Okay.
So let's say they bought Anthem, and then EA would be getting that money.
Right,
EA
okay.
would be seeing that money, and then BioWare would be getting. Well, they own BioWare, actually. I don't know how that part works. I know that EA would be the ones getting the sales from that. Whatever happens to the money after that is whatever they do. But I think the thing is with how complicated this is, especially since this is just in France and the EU, the European Union. What is this going to mean for the US? I'm just confused on how this actually would work, because it seems like in the long run it could cause the online sales market to start to crumble, because all of these things aren't all of these variables aren't like set in stone. So it's like, what if one thing leads to another and it starts to crumble if it's not solidified in something that's efficient and, well, I thought I had another word, but just efficient, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. Business, I don't know. Like, there's so many logistics that go into it. I don't even know where to think.
Where to begin. I think I was confused by this, so that's why I wanted to bring it up, because it could be good, it could be bad.
Right.
I just figured it'd be something good to kind of bounce a conversation off.
Right. From consumer only standpoint, I think it's nice to have that opportunity to return something if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of games like on Xbox that are just there and I just don't play them.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's nothing you can do about it. But being an online store and having the ability to resell it, I guess that there are those logistics of like, okay, does the developer get the money, or does Xbox get all the money? Does the developer get a share of it? Or is it going to be just like, the physical games market structure, where if a game is resold to the store, the developer's money isn't affected, but the store is buying it back and then reselling it. That's just the physical marketplace. That's how it's always been, and that's how it is with anything. You can sell a used product for less than what market value is, but if it's used, I mean, so you buy it back for a certain price, and then you resell it for a higher price, but still lower than the initial cost. If it's treated like that, I don't see how it would be much different than physical, other than the developer and the storefront would be making more because they don't have to pay for manufacturing of the physical copy.
Right.
But with it being an online store, there's so many more logistics, on the marketing end, that I think is going to be different than the physical sales. I have no idea how that works. I don't know. I'm not a marketing person. I'm not a business person. I'm just kind of giving my thoughts to how it would work based on what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're doing the same thing.
Yeah. What we need is to get one of your full sale professors in.
Yeah,
they can answer all our questions.
The thing is there's someone that is going to the same job as me, graduated from Full Sail with a game design degree, bachelor's degree, and then ended up getting his master's degree in entertainment business.
Oh, dang.
So they might know a little bit more on this than me, but I don't know him. I just know that he's going to be working there. We connected a little bit on Discord, but that would be a good connection to have for topics like this. But either way, I should have asked him about this, because he might know more about this. But this is getting more into like a sales market versus entertainment business.
They're all connected, though.
Yeah, it's still, when you look at it, it's still sale of products and reselling of that product back to a store for selling at a lower price than market value. Even though it's an entertainment business, it's still a consumer related market.
Right.
But I'm sure this topic is going to continue to unfold, I'm sure, as more of the details from this case comes out. But anyone listening to this, give us your thoughts on this topic. What do you think this could mean? Do you think it was good of the French court to do this? Do you think this could be bad for Valve? Do you think this could be good? It's going to be good for consumers either way.
Yeah.
But how is that going to affect the overall market? Anyone who knows more about this than us, please write in at bigslicegames@gmail.com or comment on the video or the top, or send me a message. I don't know. Post it somewhere where I'm going to see it. And
give us answers.
Yeah, we'll be able to talk about it a little bit. Maybe we can do a segment on a future episode on fan feedback or listener feedback on past topics or whatever.
Yeah.
Either way,
that'd be fun.
Do you have any more to say on this or no?
No, not really. I mean, like the past couple topics, it's just something we're gonna have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So that wraps up our pretty much all of our main topics. We didn't really have a bigger segment, so we just spent more time on each of these. I do want to bring up the upcoming games this week.
Yes.
This pretty much, and this is from IGN, so I didn't make any mistakes. I think this is updated consistently. And it's a more reliable source than Game Informer is a reliable source, but when you get the dates from the print magazine,
it's printed, a little older.
Yeah, it's printed in advance, so if dates change, you're going to get older dates.
Right.
But out this week, the 23rd, which would have been this Monday, this episode's actually all of these games are out now as of this recording. You have Various Daylife on iPhone. You have Baldur's Gate Siege of Dragonspear on the PS4 coming out Tuesday. That's actually the day of this recording. Like I said, all of these are out now. Planetscape Torment Enhanced Edition is out on Switch and PS4. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast is out on PS4. Aspire 1 VR Operative is out on PC. The Surge 2 is out on Xbox One. Color Slayer is out on PS4. Baldur's Gate 2 Enhanced Edition is out on PS4. And Baldur's Gate, the Enhanced Edition, is out on Switch. I think Baldur's Gate, the Enhanced Edition, was out on other stuff before, but now it's out on Switch.
Probably, yeah.
Good timing and stressed me out because Baldur's Gate is another game that I wanted to play out of my backlog because Baldur's Gate 3 got announced at or was detailed at E3. I don't remember when it's actually coming out, but there's a lot of games that I want to play and they're coming out too fast and it's super overwhelming and it stresses me out.
So many games and
not enough time.
Ain't that the truth?
It makes me look forward to retirement because I'll be able to play all of my backlog until the day I die.
That's funny, Corey. You're a millennial. You know you're not gonna.
I know that I'm not going to be able to retire. But either way.
Yeah.
I'm saving I'm already putting money aside for retirement either way. Whether I'll be able to afford to or not. Either way, there's a lot of games that I want to play eventually and not enough time to play them. It's kind of a nice feeling, if you think about it, to be overwhelming by how many games that you want to play instead of being bored out of your mind every day after work.
Oh yeah.
Instead, you're overwhelmed by, I don't know what I want to play next. Rather than I've got nothing to play.
It's very true.
But either way, so all of those games are, if you're listening to this, all of those games are out now. There's nothing else coming out this week, according to this.
No, there's some stuff hit in October, but that's a week and a half away.
Yeah, this is pretty much all that's out, at least according to IGN's list. That's all the games that are coming out through the end of through the end of September. Once October hits, we're going to get bombarded with a bunch of games. That fall season is starting to hit, and now we're about to be bombarded with tons and tons of games. But I am relatively excited because, and this will be a good segue into what we're playing. I just finished the main story of Control, so now I have time to finish Assassin's Creed before getting into a new game.
Yay!
I finished Control last night. I'm debating if I want to go back and do some side missions and maybe try and platinum it, but I don't really have time. I kind of want to get back into Assassin's Creed DLC so that I can move on to something else. But I think I'm gonna put Control aside and come back to it once DLC starts rolling out, because that's definitely a game I want to continue to play. So I think I am going to invest money in the DLC, because that game was really good. Although the verdict is, I would probably give it about somewhere between an 8 and an 8.5. I liked it a lot, but the frame rate would drop consistently to a point where it was really, really rough. I mean, for context, I'm playing it on an original PS4, so I don't know if it's just you're starting to see the age of current gen hardware, and new games are harder and harder to run on it. But the frame rate would consistently drop. The map was really hard to read. The map was really confusing, which I don't know if that was part of the UX that they were going for, because the idea is that this building is constantly changing and confusing. So I don't know if they were trying to sort of proceduralize that through the map itself. The map is confusing to read because the building is hard to read itself, which would be interesting, but if that's not what they were going for, then that map is terrible. It's genius if that's what they were going for as part of the user experience, but if it's not, then that's inexcusable.
Then whoops.
Yeah. And that checkpoint system was totally unnecessary. Like, you would spend a good couple of minutes every time you died just getting back to a boss, when they could have easily just started you back at the beginning of the boss.
I hate that. I hate bad checkpoints.
Yeah, the thing is I get that the checkpoint system was similar to Dark Souls, and the idea that you go back to one of the bonfires and getting back to where you were was a challenge and sometimes frustrating. But with Dark Souls, it was intentional. It added to the challenge. It added urgency to, when you die, okay, crap, now I have to try and survive and get to the souls that I lost, and then get to another save point so that I can save them. It added another sense of urgency that added to the incredible punishment that is Dark Souls. But that was the design intent. It made sense for Dark Souls. Plus, the environment was pretty to look at when you were running back to get your souls. It was part of that experience. With Control, the only thing that you are losing is time and patience. It was totally unnecessary and frustrating. That's one of my main criticisms with that game. But overall, it was a very enjoyable game, and the combat was so smooth and felt amazing that it made up for that checkpoint system. That checkpoint system is still inexcusable, but the game overall was amazing. I loved it.
That's good.
Yeah. Worth the money.
I'll get it when it's cheaper.
Yeah.
But I will get it at some point.
I think that 10 hours was unrealistic. of me to say. It definitely took me more than 10 hours. There's definitely more there than just 10 hours, especially if you go off the beaten path and do side missions.
Right.
If you're able to get through it without any difficulty, the main story would probably be roughly 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours, but you're going to get interested by the cutscenes. You're going to be interested by the side missions anyway. So it's going to be more than 10 hours, but now that I finished that, I might have time to actually get the Link's Awakening remake, which you've been playing, right?
Yeah, I picked that up. Okay, so let me first start by saying I played it on the Game Boy, but like I didn't own it. So like when I played it, it was like just with a friend. So I never really got the full Link's Awakening original experience. But I'm really enjoying this one. I think the artwork is absolutely adorable. Even though I know some people were hoping for the anime artwork, but I think the little chibi stuff is just super cute. Especially when Link goes fishing and he catches a fish, he just looks at the camera, makes his giant smile. Super cute. No, but it's really nice. They do the original video beginning of him on the boat and getting struck by lightning. And it looks really, really good. And then they start off the game, and I probably spent the first hour of the game cutting grass to get rupees. It's not something you necessarily have to do, but like
something that you felt like you wanted to do.
Yeah, it's just something that like, because like there's like a just large kind of like gardeny patch of grass.
Yeah.
Near where you start, and you can make like 30 to 60 rupees like that. And it's like, oh, I'm going to just keep doing this, because like just south of that patch is a crane game. Where you can get rupees, or you can win one of the you can win his shield, or you can win these they're kind of like collectibles that you kind of can either trade or put in people's houses. I haven't really gone too much into that yet, but it's cute. But it's fun. I've done a few temples, if they're really called temples, or dungeons.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're called in this game. And I did do Dampe's make your own dungeon.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It's actually kind of cool. So like you in one of the dungeons that you go into, I believe, you get a dungeon piece. And they don't really explain what that is, but then later you run into Dampe. He's like, "Oh, hey, stop by my place later." And so you go, and he's like, "Oh, I've been working on this. If you want to check it out, that'd be cool." And so he puts you like on this thing, and there's like the 3 points that are already there. So you have the entrance, you have like a treasure room or something. And then you have the boss room, and they're already placed, they're already permanent, and then you have to create the dungeon that goes to each of those rooms and connects the right way. And then once they're all connected and everything is like flows well, you play the dungeon, and then at the end you get like a prize. So it's actually kind of cool. It's got that puzzle aspect to it, where you can like be creative, and then you play the own dungeon that you just made, and you get something out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of fun. I've only done it once, but I had a lot of fun when I did it.
Yeah, that's definitely a game I want to check out. One thing I have been hearing is that the frame rate sounds like it dropped quite a bit.
Yeah, I've read that too, and I honestly haven't had any issue. I'm still playing on my original Switch. So I don't know. And I have like the 4K fancy TV.
Yeah.
And I still haven't noticed it. So I don't know if either my eyesight's just that bad, or or people are just having issues that I'm not. But I haven't noticed it.
It might end up being I'm not really sure where the frame rate's happening, but I'm hearing a lot of people say that the frame rate drops quite a bit. It sounds like they still enjoyed the game overall, in spite of that, but that frame rate needs to be fixed, or something needs to be done about that.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know, because like I said, I haven't noticed it, and I feel like I would notice it because the frame rates on my TV refresh faster.
Oh, okay.
So maybe that makes a difference, but
I don't think so,
know.
because that's the display. I think the frame rate's going to be coming from the game itself, or from the Switch not being able to run it very well.
Yeah. Or maybe it makes a difference if they downloaded it versus bought the physical, because I actually bought the physical for this one. So maybe that makes a difference too.
I don't think it would. It's still technically the same game. I honestly don't know. I'd have to play it myself and see what they're talking about. But
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out
where it would be.
Why I haven't noticed it, but a lot of people have.
Yeah, who knows?
Or like I said, my eyesight just might be that bad.
Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely a game that I want to try playing. I do want to finish playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I do want to finish that DLC. Hopefully, hopefully I can finish that this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a little bit of Borderlands 3 too, and then I did check out Apple Arcade as well.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I have a few, because the first month is free, so I downloaded just a few games. I downloaded the Sayonara,
Annapurna's game.
Yep. It's cute. It's fun. Good music.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It has an amazing soundtrack.
Yeah, it's good music. I haven't really been drawn to it that much though. I have played a stupid amount of What the Golf on it. That's
another one that I've been hearing a lot about. Like, some people have said that it could be a mobile game of the year contender.
I believe it.
Or even justifiably nominee for game of the year.
Yeah, because What the Golf, I mean, that wasn't originally a mobile game, was it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, because you can get it on the Switch too.
It was on PC. It sounds like Microsoft Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Wait,
it's a stupid game, but stupid as in like you just play it and you play it. You're like, what the heck? But I've probably put in 2 or 3 hours into that game. Honestly, it's fun. It's fun to do. And I tried Frogger, but I didn't really like that one that much.
Yeah, it's hard to compete with the original Frogger and the impact that made.
Yeah.
But What the Golf is one that I want to check out, and another one that I want to try playing too is Untitled Goose Game. Everyone's going wild over that.
Oh yeah, I do need to see that one too.
Yeah, it came out on Switch last week.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's going crazy over it, and I definitely want to check that out. I might drop.
Do we know what the price is on that one?
Untitled.
Or do you know off the top of your head? Yeah.
Let me see price. So it's $15. Oh wait, the game is discounted from $19.99 for a limited time at launch to $14.99. So it might still be $14.99. So around $15 to $20. That's one that I want to.
I might get if it's still 15.
Yeah, I might end up abandoning Snake Pass because that game just stresses me out. But
that's kind of what I did with Ori, honestly.
Oh, you dropped.
Like, I still have it if I want to go back to it, but I haven't really touched it because I got too angry with it.
That's what I end up doing for a while. Like, there's like, if I have one bad play session that just pushes me overboard, I just walk away from it, and I'm too afraid to come back to it. Snake Pass, I just haven't got around to getting back to, just because I haven't had time to play games, and I've been wanting to play Control. So I finally finished that. I might go back to Snake Pass, but I don't know. I might just call it and say, it's cool, but I
Right.
don't really want to finish it. I don't care to finish it. I mean, I want to finish it, but there's so many other games that I want to get to that it's just I don't really want to prioritize that game. Right now I want to prioritize finishing Assassin's Creed so that I can move on to something else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially because you've been working on it so long.
Yeah. Well, I've been coming back to it and whatnot, but I haven't played it in a while. But now that I'm done with Control, I'm going to get back to that. All right. Well, I think that covers what I was playing. Is that everything that you've been playing, pretty much?
Yeah. Link's Awakening, Borderlands, and Apple Arcade.
Yeah, Apple Arcade. I wanna try that free month. And check those games out. But yeah, that pretty much covers everything that we have to talk about on the podcast. So, if you like this, make sure that you leave a like, comment, follow the podcast on the audio sites like SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes. You can find the video version of it on YouTube at a later date. I'll keep you posted. You can follow BigSlice Games at BigSlice Games on Facebook and on Twitter. The handles in both places, just BigSlice Games. And you can follow me on Twitter at Strobe Official. That's STROBBE Official, all one word. And Jessica, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Phoenix Lee JS. Or if you want to see any of my photography stuff, you can follow me on all handles at JL Boone, BOONE, photography.
And you can follow us on all of those and stay updated. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.